Hello, and welcome back to episode 3 of the Open Road podcast. I am Rob, your host, along with fellow host Zach, or Rally Race Guys.
Hello.
And special guest today, Brett, whose background is in rallying and motorsport. Today we'll be talking a bit about club updates and then the world of motorsport, with Brett and Zach taking lead on that, because I don't know, unfortunately, much about motorsport. So hopefully you can educate me on the world of rallying and how to get into motorsport at a entry level, affordable level, shall we say?
So, Rob, what's sort of the updates this week for the club?
So we've just announced our second main event, the Cotswolds Adventure. This will be our first full day event. So we're estimating about 6 to 7 hours in total. That includes driving and food and fuel and toilet stops. It will be less numbers than the first run. First run was 25. We're going to bring it back a little bit, purely because a lot of the car parks we'll be going to in the Cotswolds are very popular for tourism. So there'll be big car parks, but might not be too many spaces. So we've cut back numbers a bit, just in order to make sure that when we do go to a location, we can park. But yes, it will be starting on the, when is it? 13th of June will be the Cotswold Adventure. Tickets are going live on Friday, this Friday, tomorrow at 8 p.m. So if you want to make sure you get on, so Zach will put the link in somewhere. Yeah. And just keep an eye out on all our social channels on Facebook and Instagram. And at 8 p.m. tomorrow, the ticket link will go live for Eventbrite. On there, you can register to join. It's a free ticket, but we are capping it at a certain number just to make sure that it isn't too busy and there aren't too many cars.
Brilliant. Well, sometimes, as we've spoken about before, this is a sort of a new concept, so we're trying things out. So, yeah, there you go. You have been pre-warned. There was less tickets. I say was because this will be posted after, unfortunately.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, so there's. Have we got any more planned or not yet?
There's a very long line of things we'd like to do. I think I'm going to put it down to vote. So the Cotswold was the first by popular vote run. We've got a plan for Snowdonia National Park, Brecon Beacons, Peak District, Eden Valley, lots of places in Wales and North England and also Norfolk and other places. It's a big long list. Don't want to list it all now, but basically what we will do is just each month put up a poll saying which one would you like to do next. Most popular will be the one that we do.
Brilliant. Did you hit a social media goal today? Was that a thing today?
Yes, we've hit 400 members on Facebook, which is fantastic. 500 would be even better. Invite your friends. But 400's 400. We were sat at about 380 for a while, and then today we peaked 400. We do have more followers on Instagram, but I sort of count Facebook members as sort of not more official, but yeah, it's nice to have a club with such a good following on Facebook. Instagram is, it's nice to have the numbers that we do, but I'd say it's easier to grow on Instagram than it is on Facebook. So to get 400 is brilliant. And if you want to invite your friends, please do. The more the merrier. Yeah, that's where we are with that.
Sounds good. So, Brett, do you want to say a little bit about yourself, about the car and sort of championships you're involved in, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, well, clubman rallying at level at the moment. We're doing the Association of Eastern Motor Clubs Championship for the last. This will be the second year that we're doing it. Actually, in the first year, we sort of stumbled on it by chance rather than sort of knowing what we were getting involved with. Really, bought a car, MG ZR. It was only 1400. It's still enough to get yourself in trouble with, and brought it as a budget car, and we're just sat in traffic on the way home from work one day, scrolling through Google, finding out what's goes on, what sort of things are going on championship wise, and then found that the Eastern Motor Clubs, our motor club was part of it, Middlesex County. So, and the registration was, I think it was only like £20 for driver and co-driver for registration.
Yeah.
And just in the traffic on the M25 one day, just for the sake of 20 quid, we'll have a go. Then the three events that we did in 2020 were all part of that championship, and actually managed to get us enough points to win Class A last year. In 3 events out of the 6 that run in total. I think 3 of them run before all the lockdowns, and then 3 of them run from September to December last year. So I sort of took it with a pinch of salt originally, with it being a pandemic year and limited numbers in the championship. So we've sort of had another go this year, just to sort of see whether it was a bit of a lucky cup run or or whether we can do it again, sort of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Start of the season was Snezerton, the Snezerton stage. I think that was on the 25th of April. We've actually managed to come second in class, which as a result at the minute has left us leading Class A again. After one round this year, so it's looking like a positive move again this year. We've actually got confirmed entry for the 13th of June, the Flying Fortress, which is over Northampton way, and we've actually got Goodwood's a confirmed entry for August, but that's a rearranged date from January, because they obviously when we went into lockdown after Christmas again, it was the Snezerton event got postponed, as did Goodwood's, which we had entries for, and I think Brands Hatch one was cancelled, so lost one event out of the calendar for sure at the moment. But
Yeah,
it's still a bit sort of up in the air now to what the rest of the year holds for everybody anyway, isn't it?
yes, definitely. Yeah, because I was originally planned to go back to Isle of Man, because last time I went there in 2019, we came third in class there. So I'm due to go back. But that's brilliant. I've never actually been a part of a sort of a championship per se, but it doesn't seem like it's a fluke. I guess from Class A, you mean 1400 and below?
Yeah, that's sort of what is it, over 1 litre but under 1400 sort of thing. So yeah, Class A or can be referred Class 1. I think it gets labelled sometimes depending on organisers of events, sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some competition within the registered cars this year that, I think on paper there's possibly one car that, has finished. They were doing Flying Fortress when we done it 2020, and they won the event. So when we see the entry list and see that they were on it, it was, we might have a work out this time round, sort of thing. But
yeah,
they were at Snezerton but didn't finish. So the reliability thing comes into play where, as it does with motorsport. It's all very well and good having the quickest car on paper and looking all that good, but if the car don't finish, and that was something I was, told as soon as I bought the car, to finish first you got to finish. So, it's turning out to good advice, really.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I've always been have an advocate for that. That's why I'm building a 1400 car myself. Keep it simple, because keep it simple, stupid. because eventually you'll break it, and that's where you've got to have reliability. And as you say, you've got to win, you've got to finish. So and that's definitely played a part. So if you don't have a simple car, and you over spec a car or something like that, which a lot of people do when their first car, and it's very easily done, as we spoke about before this. You've got to try and keep it as simple as possible, and I think that's what you've done, and you've got the right recipe, and it seems to be winning for you, really.
Yeah, I mean, I actually marshalled at Snezerton in February of 2020. It was February the 15th, 2020, and we were marshalling, and there was a large number of the 1400s class there that day, and it was sort of walking out there, the cogs started turning, and you go home, start scrolling through eBay, and you know what's for sale on the internet, sort of thing, and you realise just how many sort of clubman entry level, 1400 cars are out there, sort of thing, and what I bought come up at a price that I just, I thought, I can't let this go anywhere else, sort of thing. It was probably the cheapest one I could find on the market, but when you looked at the sort of spec list and everything, it had been pretty well built. It had all, already MSA logbook, so the seats and belts were all in date. And the whole idea when I bought it, that must have been the last week of February. It was about 2 weeks before we went into lockdown. I got it home and put it on my drive. And, the whole idea was I was just going to go and get an entry and go and have a go, sort of thing, right?
Yeah.
And obviously 2020 took hold and we all got stuck at home and motorsport stopped. Well, the world stopped, and it wasn't just motorsport, like, and that gave me that window of opportunity then, really, to find the reliability. And I did do some engine modifications, but the whole thing with the car was the affordability of it. And just even when I was making the modifications, when I was having the engine done, there was 3 options, and there was a sensible, affordable one which I did. There was like a middle of the road, and then there was how much money do you actually want to throw at it, and I'll build you a car, sort of thing. And as much as I wanted to go for that top level, and it was, if it goes wrong, I've got to find that money again to go and use it again. Whereas the majority of the cars standard, it's there's a few added extras to it, adjustable suspension, which are AVAs, so it's serviceable. So having things serviced is a lot cheaper than buying them outright the first time round, sort of thing. So it's just everything's done at a level I can keep up with over the season, hopefully.
Yeah, because this is what you want to get into, Rob, isn't it? So sort of not potentially sort of or potentially like sort of a championship potentially with the MX-5, which is conveniently on your shirt right now.
Yes. Well, that's a Mark IV.
Yeah.
And the Mark II is further down, but yes.
But yeah, there's a rallying. I think is it MSN, Brett? MSN.
It's the Motorsport News Circuit Championship.
Yeah.
I've actually got a MX-5 class, so it's just MX-5s all up against each other.
Yeah.
I think there is one of the guys is actually registered onto the championship I'm doing, the Association of Eastern Motor Clubs. But I think a lot of them are the 1600s. Am I right?
Mine's 18.
Yours is 1800. They do have a 1600. But yeah, I believe the NBs, which is the NB Mark 2.5 and 2. I think they have their own circuit championship as well.
Okay. Yeah.
Which believe you could probably do a car and enter it for under 5,000, which is quite affordable realistically. Um,
I think the rally guys are using the 1600s. To be fair, when I look at the one now, I'm sure he's in Class B, which would be the 1600s. I might be wrong on that, but I think the problem is once you go to Class C, it's 2 litres, and I know it's the same with the MGs that they only went up to an 1800. And the guys that have got the VVC engine in there, is the MG, they were the 160s. A lot of them go into the Class C, and then they're sort of struggle to compete at that level because you start having them Mark II Escorts with 2 litres that they're were a bit more capable than the 1800 that you've got, sort of thing. That's another big thing if you are looking at sort of going into circuit racing or rallying, is finding the car that sort of matches the class for what you want to do. And it doesn't, you only have to go to 1 or 2 events and you can start understanding what cars work in what classes, because you'll get a few of them, like Class A with the rallying, Micras, MG ZRs, and the Vauxhall Corsas and the Novas, and you can sort of guarantee that that's the majority of the Class A fields. And whoever's driving might give you the pros and cons of what they've got and what they're doing, sort of thing. And I imagine the circuit racing is much the same.
Because I think that's what you ultimately want to do with the MX-5 once it's back on the road, which is going to be very soon, very close now. But so other than just looking obviously around motorsport and stuff like that, how did you get into rallying? Was it sort of marshalling? Because I know you mentioned that, or was it through other means?
Well, I've got a long history with motorsport from a very young age. Even sort of my earliest memories were to do with my dad was involved with a local motor club. He was organising events. He even run the club. My mum and dad run the club for a time, and due to that, it was we were going to motorsport events with him as family days out. So that was sort of the early introduction into motorsport. It wasn't much longer, and my brother sort of come in one day. Him and his mates were going to go-karting. It was only an indoor circuit it was a kids club, sort of turn up and race, the hire kart sort of thing. And that went on that must have gone from 4, maybe 5 years of just all me and my brothers were doing. Others went to football and everything, and we were going go-karting at the weekend. My dad's had a Mark II Escort that was, I think it was originally for road rallying at first, and it sat in the back garden for years as it was more. I think it was more of a plaything than for us boys jumping all over it than it did anything. But then he got to a point and he started doing a few events, and I mean I was probably still wasn't even quite a teenager, but just going along with them as to see what was going on was probably the first taste of it, sort of real life, that it's doable, sort of thing. Obviously the influence of Colin McRae while you were growing up was, I think for a lot of people, my age and even younger sort of thing, is still such a big influence he had on, on the rallying. And, British motorsport is one of them that sits in high regard with most people you talk motorsport today with. but it just was progression all the time. You know, all through my life, it's just been a progression further and further into it. Left school and went into I was a panel beater, apprentice. Through working in the garage was, you know, picking up my limited knowledge now that, you know, I used to sort my own car out, and that led to Dad going out again and saying, right now, can you service crew for me? And it just got, you just get deeper and deeper involved as time goes on. You know, marshalling at events was always something that we've, you know, sort of been a part of. You know, without the marshals on the day, you know, it's not possible for the racing sort of thing. And sort of when you're involved with a motor club, they're always encouraged. You know, everybody volunteers their time to pull them off, don't they? So it's always encouraged to get involved with the marshalling, and sometimes that gives you a better idea of what actually goes on a, you know, on an event than anything else. You know, even as a driver sort of thing, because you understand all the influences of everything that's going on, and you know what's going on behind the scenes. While you know, I always say we've got the easy job, us drivers. Like, you know, going out there and enjoying yourself and having the fun sort of thing. So, but without everybody around you, it sort of don't happen. And it was like I say, it was the marshalling that led me to walk out of Snezerton 18 months ago and finally go, right, I've got to buy myself a car now. And, you know, it's just seemed to be the next progressional step in just what I've sort of been involved with a lot of my life, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm a big advocator myself, like yourself, where personally, if I couldn't do the rally, when I wanted to do the rally, I would go and attend and go and be a marshal. And I think that's the best way, personally, to get into the motorsport on sort of the cheap side, because you get the thrill of looking at the cars and the smell of the cars, and you get to see world-class cars at even some of these events, even the Clubman events. I managed to get to see Danny Sordo's 2018 Hyundai i30. That was a spectacle and a half. Like, I've got a video of it crashing, actually, because it was the first time he'd brought it out, and he managed to hit a concrete barrel, and I think it cost him £250,000 to buy this car, and it was the first time out. It was his test. It was a home rally. Managed to hit a concrete barrel at Bovington. I don't know if you know Bovington.
Yeah.
Yeah, the tank sort of training ground. So they used to being hit all the time with tanks. So you can see what they did to a fiberglass rally world rally car, and it just obliterated it, and it was horrendous. The smoke pouring out of it and everything, because he bent everything. I think it cost him 30 grand to get it fixed. It was not pretty, and I've got a photo of it up on the jack, and I'll put it on the screen. But it's a spectacle and a half, and he will never remember that day. His wallet certainly won't regret it. But yeah.
I mean, that's the thing you say, like at these Clubman events, you go and you have got, you know, just at Snezerton the other week, with, you know, we had XWRC cars there, you've got R5s, you sort of walking around the paddock, sort of, you know, thinking, what now? What am I doing here? You know, mine's a little MG's at 1400 MGs head. You know, you don't see too many of them on the road anymore, but when they come up for sale, they're normally, you know, pretty affordable. And we actually had a garage in the paddock for servicing, and the next door neighbour in the garage had got a GT3, I think it was. It's like a Porsche GT car, and they're trying to get it homologated for stage rallying. And Chris West was was driving it. But you see the two of them parked in the same garage together, and it was just like, you know, that's a full blown GT car that's done endurance GT racing, and like, you know, mine started life as a stage rally car because it was written off with like 18,000 miles on it, like you know, and someone found it in a scrapyard and went, oh, I know what I can do with that. So it's, you know, it's a big world with a lot of money in it, but you can get involved and enjoy it just as much. I was getting out the same smile on my face as he was, so that says it all.
Yeah, it definitely does. And the difference, just from running costs as well, the difference, just let's take those two cars. You probably spent a couple of £100 to enter, tyres, fuel, getting there, what have you. And he probably spent double or triple just probably on tyres.
Just one of his rear tyres, I think. Like, they're proper, like, you know, serious bit of kit. And
Yeah.
you know, it don't alter the level of enjoyment for, you know, for you at all. And you know, just you know, even at our level, if you're just getting out there and having a bit of fun, that you feel like you've succeeded. You know, I never rocked into these championships expecting to, you know, sort of find the success I did within 3 rallies or whatever it was I done last year. Like, that was never the intention or the goal. It was just give me some direction in the events that I was doing, and you know, a bit of fun, you know, added excitement, like you say.
Yeah.
You know, initially the idea was to buy the car and go and have a go. Like,
Well, you've always got to tinker, haven't you? So I'm the biggest tinker of them all, because I started to do exactly what you were going to do, and that didn't last long. My car is fully stripped down. It's on a rotisserie. Everything's apart. Rob's done something with his camera again, and and Rob knows the state of my car. It is in bits, isn't it, Rob? And
Yeah. It's just it's a pile of parts right now.
I will get it done eventually, but with work commitments, as you well know today, like I was at work till gone past when I was meant to, but I was still there, and everything else. And
that's the thing. So, you know, with work and everything, I mean, I'm the same. I'm doing the majority of the work on the car myself to, you know, it helps keeps the cost down and everything. I do everything, you know, unless it starts getting a bit specialised and right, I need someone that knows what they're doing now. And not saying I don't, but you know, when it gets a bit more specialised, you need someone that knows what they're doing, don't you? So, but other than that, I've had my cars in bits, and you know, events are coming up, and you know, I've got 3 weeks, and I'm working 5 days a week, and I've got this that night, and the week on it starts raining, and I can't get down the lockup this week, and you just. I have sat there on some evenings on the phone, you know, my dad's the co-driver sort of thing, going, I'm going to have to pull the entry, the car's just not going to be ready, you know. And to be fair, we've made them all. I mean, we did Flying Fortress last year, and Abingdon was 2 weeks later. We come out of Flying Fortress, and I think, definitely the front 2 suspension struts had no gas left in them, and the back 2 weren't looking very pretty. I think they might have had a bit in them, but you know, and because of the nature of the car, I just took them all off, and I managed to get hold of some standard suspension struts and springs, and just put the whole units on the weekend before I was at Abingdon. When I got to Abingdon, and someone on what have you done with the suspension? I said, it's just got standard ones on it. You running standard suspension? Yeah, it's got me here, innit? Like, you know, I'm gonna. And Abingdon's like smooth tarmac anyway. It wasn't a rough event, and it was just like the standard suspension is fine on the road. Like, yeah, do I'm here, and you know, like I say, it was just that sort of attitude that kept the consistency up. I think we're 4th in class there and 60th overall. Like, it wasn't a shamed result, and I've managed to get the class win over the course of the season. Like it is on budget terms.
Well,
But
it just shows you like you don't need a three-way sort of what they call Rigers.
yeah,
You don't need canisters. You well, as you've shown, you can come in fourth in class after going from Avo to standard suspension. So like it you don't need the fanciest coilovers or anything like that unless you're Rob and you want to be stanced out.
it's easy to get dragged in now. I have on my latest with the gearbox. It's dragged me in a little bit, but it's just what the car was lacking in all fairness, and I've sort of taken the plunge. Not completely. It's not it's not brand new. I've got it second hand at a fair price sort of thing, and it's got, I think it's Crave gear set, Crown 5.0 Crown One pinion, gripper diff, but I did have, I think it's the Peugeot MA box, and that was the standard gear set, but it had a diff in it. That was the box that come on it originally, but with the engine modifications I've done, I think I was just riding on the limit of the capabilities of the box sort of thing, and talking amongst people that have got them, it's possibly the weakest of the three boxes that you can fit, and it was just like, oh, it's going to cost me money if I don't, if I don't spend the money now, it's going to cost me money anyway. So I've gone to the PG1 box, which is a lot more capable, and better gear set, and hopefully it is, it'll match what I've got, sort of
Yeah.
power wise as well, hopefully.
Yeah, because yeah, fortunately or unfortunately, I've got two MA gearboxes. They don't actually have any gear. They have diffs in them, but they're open.
Right.
But they are renowned as chocolate teapots. You will just butter. You will go through them, and I know I will. So I've got two. But I just don't have the money at the moment to buy anything better. Like with the Peugeot guys, because I'm building a 205. If you didn't know, because you wouldn't be able to tell, because it's in so many bits. But yeah, you can go down the sort of BE4 sort of platform. So you go from I think it's a Citroen Picasso, and then you take certain gears from certain other models to give you the right ratios, and then take the crown wheel and pinion from another one, and it's a bit of a mismatch, and they're so hard to come across now because all the rally boys have got them.
Yeah.
And they blow them up so many times. It's sort of like, well, do you just go straight cut?
It's what happens to them, isn't it? Like, once they know the route to take, that's, it's what everybody does then, isn't it? So
yeah, it's well trodden. That's the one thing which is good for a platform, obviously, like yourself and also mine. It's well trodden, so you're not reinventing the wheel. You're just going to buy what people know.
yeah. I mean, that was the other thing with the box. When this box come up and it had the 5.0 chrome and pinion in it, just to get hold of them now, as for the box, it's a nightmare. You've got people that are buying, trying to get 10 people to all go in and get somebody to make a batch of 10 of them so they can all have them, and it don't really work out cheap way of doing it. And then, like I say, when this one come up with it in, I've got to bite the bullet now. I've got to do it now, otherwise I'm going to get sort of left behind with it. So
yeah. So you will find the next weakest link, which unfortunately, once you upgrade one thing, you'll have to upgrade the next thing. But you can only go so far if you limit yourself to a budget, and that's the hardest thing with especially rallying. Circuit racing, it's not as harsh, I don't think, as sort of on the cars, because they're inherently well, it's a circuit. It's not like it's a stage where 1 minute you could be on tarmac, next minute you could be on very bumpy concrete, or the next thing you could be on gravel what have you. There's so much sort of variability within sort of even I think Abingdon. You've got so much variability just in one stage, let alone like anything else. Like even if you go to Forest, you don't just get Forest. You get the gravel, you get the forest, you get a bit of tarmac, you get sort of everything.
It's you know, it's the nature of the terrain as well, on it. Sometimes you can, you know, you can just hit the wrong puddle at the wrong angle and it finishes you off, doesn't it? That's, you know,
Yeah.
it's, you know, it's just the unknown sometimes that, you know, where did that come from? You know, I've sort of been involved with rallying where, you know, you sort of say to people, you know, people at the side of the road, how did that happen? I don't know. One minute we were all right, and the next minute it was like all over.
Yep.
And it's a genuine comment that you hear in the service areas so many times, like, just don't even know what happened.
Yeah, we had it at we actually did a rally at Bovington, and one minute it was fine, next minute somebody was on their roof, and it's like they're scraping along the only straight bit of the course. They're scraping along their roof. Like, how do you do it? And unfortunately, fortunately they're okay. Unfortunately, the car wasn't. It was actually an MGZR, and they had to cut the roof off to get them out. But
Yeah,
they managed to hit a tree. The one of the only trees on the site, because if you know anything about Bovington, it is basically either concrete or sand. There's very few trees there. There's little like sort of spruces, but that's about it. So they managed to hit a tree and flip. And
that's just
yeah,
like saying with it though, you know, that's, you know, the thing with rallying, chances are if there is a tree, that one tree, you can sort of almost bet bottoms on someone's going to find it somehow, sort of thing.
they are, and but that's why you go into it, and that's what everybody says. Oh, why are you building it? And I'm like, every time I say, oh yeah, I'm gonna hit a tree. I'm gonna, don't I, Rob? Every time somebody says, oh, what are you gonna do? I'm saying I'm building my car to hit a tree, because I normally virtually building a rally car to hit something, whether that's a barrel, hay, a pallet, other car, because it can happen, a tree, a fence. Yeah.
I mean, I've done it. You know, at Donington last year, we sort of went into tyres on the chicane sort of thing, stoved all the front of it in. And when we got it back home, well, we're going to replace the front panel. No, just pull it all out. Just pull it all out. I'm only going to do it again. I think Abingdon would push the passenger's front wing in, just pulled it out, and I've got, you know, I went and got a spare wing and bumper and I've got it all, and they say you're going to fill it. No, I'll just, because it'll only happen again until I get to the point where I really have to change that because it's that badly damaged. It'll stay on the car for now.
Yeah.
And people don't realise when you walk around the paddock at, you know, sort of, not so much circuit racing, I don't think, but the rally boys, some of the states of the cars, you know, when you see them going around at a distance, you think, oh, that's nice, that's nice. When you stop and look at them, they've all had their panels pushed out, and you know, they've all got scuffs up the side of them, and well, it's because you're trying, isn't it? You know,
Yeah.
you don't do it unless you're not trying, do you? So,
Well, yeah. What is the point? What's the point? And you're forever seeing, like, you walk down the paddock and you see a very nice Mark II in the morning, and you just know one of the Forest arches is going to be caved in, or that very nice carbon bumper is going to be split in half. You just know it, and like you just like, what? Why do you do this?
they've all them cars in paddocks, they've all been to war, haven't they? Like, you know, there's not one that hasn't had a scuff or a bump or something along the line. It's a sort of nature of what you do. I mean, I don't feel quite like you. So I'm building it to do it. But when people do say it to me, I sort of go, well, it's a possibility, isn't it? Like, you know, it's not the immediate intention, but it does happen.
Yeah, I'm not saying it to try and say I'm doing it. I'm not intentionally going to crash my car into a tree, but I just know it's going to happen. If you say it's not, you're sort of living in dreamland because you're going to hit something. So I don't mind, and that's why I didn't buy the prettiest car.
No.
It's hit a couple of stuff. It's got a dent here there. It doesn't bother me. Like
No.
I'm just gonna hit it out anyway. I'm gonna create more dents anyway, so it doesn't matter. The cars are there to be used, not to be on show, unlike Rob's. Um, he did hit a pheasant the other day though, and
I did.
I had to pull that out, didn't I?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
if you want to go circuit racing or get involved in motorsport, that's a concept you might have to leave at home.
Yeah. Well, I don't mind hitting the Mazda so much. It was the Mini that hit the pheasant, and yeah, but Zach managed to sort of get a plunger and pull it out, so we're all good.
Yeah, but what? So a big contention within sort of the motorsport world, let alone rallying, is sort of licenses and then sort of yearly or annual fees that come along with that, because I know that was a massive contention probably pre-pandemic, because the MSA or Motorsport UK as it's now called, not the MSA, upped it because it was it £69 initially, and then now it's gone up to 100, I believe, or something along those lines for just clubman, I believe. Is that correct?
Yeah, I seem to think that I've paid 100. I paid 100 in 2020, I think, because I did it all just before the pandemic hit. I'm going rallying. I've just bought a car. Like, yeah, no, you're not. So yeah, I'm sure I paid 100 for 2020, and then on renewal this year, I think they give you 25% off because of the pandemic, and said, oh well, nobody was doing nothing. I think they give you for renewing, they give you 25% off this year.
That's good.
I think this year it was I only paid about 60, 70 quid, something like that this year.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's one of them things, and I've never really got a problem with, I know there are people out there that sort of grumble and whinge about paying it, but I'd sort of for what they provide for motorsport as a whole, I find it very difficult to sit there and sort of go, oh, that's too much money. Why did you do it? Why have we got to do it? And it sort of does. It is a sport that needs that sort of governing and care to run it the right way, and to make it work safely for not just us guys in the car, but the marshals and everybody involved on the day, paramedics and all that sort of thing. So I mean, I'm sort of not really worried about, but I just sort of take it in my stride that that's what's got to be done, really, to be honest with you with that.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the other thing. That's on the grand scheme of what I'd spend over the course of the year for motorsport. I mean, £100 on a license sort of don't really sort of touch the sides. Really, it's the bit that kills me is the tyres.
Yes, that is the one thing that's it scares the living daylights out of me is the tire price, and that's why I've stuck with a 14-inch wheel, because people go 15s, go 16s. Yes, you'll get a better tire range, but the price of the tires exponentially goes up, and it's horrendous already.
I mean, I went down to the 15s on mine. When I bought it, it had 16s on it, but I just found that the tire range on the 15s is a lot more. There's a lot more choice. The sort of cheaper budget tires were slightly cheaper than the 16s, so I thought, right, well, that's sort of the way I'm going. And then ended up going to buy myself some Hankooks and thinking, oh, middle of the range, and with front tyres that says that it only lasted a day, really. It's like,
Yeah.
and bloke in my service was, he was saying to me, oh, they're not going to do another. I said, they will. They have to do one more event, whether it's half an event or an event on, not so worried on the tyre choice sort of thing, somewhere along the line. They'll do a bit more. But I mean, it's the club memberships as well. I mean, I always say they're worth every penny, sort of thing. They're the guys that are coming up with the events to do, organising them. Taking a lot of it's volunteer work really, and so having a club membership and supporting them is is again I think is something that you've got to support. I mean, when I was talking with our club chairman at Middlesex County last year, he was saying, we've had the club numbers go down during the pandemic. Obviously, with no motorsport going on, people are not leading their club membership, and my reaction was, I don't understand that, because if you want all this to be there after all of this, then you've got to support it now, haven't you? Like, whether something's going on or not, you sort of got to give it your back in now.
Yeah.
And it is there's a lot of people out there that are sort of backing guys like ourselves at the minute at a lower budget. There's a big sort of ethos at the minute going around that it doesn't all have to be money driven and money heavy motorsport all the time to go and compete. There's a lot of people out there trying to support the lower levels and generate an interest again, because I think in recent years it has become a bit of a stigma about it all, that it's just motorsport's a money game sort of thing. So I've found with everything I've done in the last 18 months that you sort of almost getting a bit of a pat on the back from a lot of people with just sort of the way you've sort of gone about it. And Motorsport UK are now trying to adapt their approach for an entry level person, clubman motorsport person to get involved really.
Yeah. The one thing I found when I tried to get into it is there wasn't a lot of information out there. You had to sort of go and find it yourself. You had to go and speak to people. It was very word of mouthy. It was, how do you get into it? Get onto the Facebook groups and stuff like that. How did your sort of experience differ? Because obviously you came from that sort of background anyway.
I sort of knew what I was sort of getting involved with really. It just took me too long to actually commit to doing it really. That's all I've said for the last 12 months is I should have done this years ago. Like, why didn't I? But yeah, I do agree with I always say it's a bit of a secret handshake club sort of thing, unless you know somebody that's involved or there's somebody that's shown you the way in. It's a bit difficult to sort of know where to go and what to do and who to turn to. But I have had a few people that have messaged me and sort of say, "Oh, how do you go about getting involved?" And the first thing I say is always look for a local motor club that's involved with whatever motorsport that you like to get involved with. Like, there's loads all over the country. They all, I mean, I'm with Middlesex, and they do a lot of auto solos and rallying. That is sort of a lot of their background is a stage rallying really, and it just was a fit for what I was sort of interested in. I mean, other motor clubs just they just deal with the circuit racing, and just contact them. It's just the easiest way, because there's so much knowledge within them clubs, and one person would just give you enough information of either win you over or change your mind. Like,
Definitely. And I'm this is the reason I started this YouTube channel, and sort of because there was nowhere for anybody new to come into it. I knew a lot of older people because, like yourself, I was involved from motorsport from an early age, whether that was sort of off-roading or that was drag racing or sort of rallying. I sort of knew about it, but unfortunately, around me, especially around both myself and Rob, there's no actual motor clubs. You have to go a bit further afield. So we're in the centre, we're in the Midlands, and the sort of the local ones are either Leicester, Gloucester, well, Middlesex, like yourself. There's a lot of them down south. So I'm actually part of Boving, sort of the Bournemouth Motor Club. Even though I'm nowhere near it, that was just where most of my sort of rallies were.
I'm sort of Bedfordshire way, so for Middlesex, it's not too far, but it's not on my doorstep. But that's the thing, that these, because you end up travelling, you can compete all over the country, sort of thing. It's just finding some, we just found it as a fit for us, sort of thing. Once we were looking for a motor club, just because of their involvement with what we were interested in, and it wasn't too far away. But they, like you say, I think there's a lot sort of either right down south or sort of getting up north, isn't there? Sort of, that says to be the bulk of motor clubs, really. I mean, a lot of the events are sort of getting up north anyway, aren't they? I find very little events. I think this one in Northampton coming up is probably about the closest they get. Maybe the one in Essex as well. Like,
that's to be fair. Yeah, that's and that's all there is. I think there's obviously, you mentioned Abingdon. That's Oxford. You've got Goodwood, but that's more down south. You've got Gloucester, because you've got the Forest Rally there. It's Wydene, but that's it. You've either got to go Wales, proper up north, or proper down south. There's not really anything else. But hopefully, with the new legislation, sort of a couple of years ago, with the road rallying, so you can actually do a rally on the road now with the law. Hopefully that takes off, because I think the pandemic stopped that. Because I know in Essex, that's where they've had the first one. Hopefully they continue that around the country.
Middlesex at the moment they're looking at the Hertfordshire stages, and it's actually been cancelled and postponed for the last 2 years due to the pandemic. 2020 was supposed to be the first running of it, and obviously that just didn't happen. And they were trying to get it off the ground again to run for the first time this year. And they had two dates. I think one was June and one was September. And because it's all got to go through the council, and it's like highway maintenance, isn't it? I can't think of the. But they said we can't give the okay on either of them dates because of the spectators. There's no way of controlling people coming and stand at the side of the road and watching what's going on, sort of thing, which is what we want them to do, because part of the Middlesex club ethos of it is they want it to be like a community event, that they want Hertfordshire on side, sort of thing. They don't want to go out there and upset everyone and never have it run again. They want it to be an event that runs every year, that everybody comes out and enjoys. And because that was sort of a bit of the motive that they were going to the council with, that I think it sort of put them on the back burner a little bit because of the whole pandemic thing. But they are actively at the moment sort of trying to get this Hertfordshire stages off the ground, and that's a closed road event. Sort of as looking at trying to do the event when it happens, I sort of stay out of the organising the event. Best not get too involved if I want to go and drive it as well. It's not fair on others. So, but you know, obviously being part of the club, you hear the information of what is going on and the likelihood of it running. And in all honesty, that was sort of one of the sort of 3 reasons why I went and brought the car, because it was going to happen as about on the doorstep as to me as they get, and the car was sort of ready to go and do an event. That was one on the list. I was just going to go and turn up and do it, but it wouldn't be because of the 2020 that we all
had. Yeah. But yeah, this sort of ties in really well with the club, because this is the reason Rob actually started the Open Road Club, wasn't it, Rob? Because there wasn't really anything around here.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I've always, ever since starting the rallying, I've always wanted a local rally to us. And some of the roads that we go on are absolutely stunning. And they would work so well for sort of a closed road event. And I'm pointing at Rob and going, "Oi, can you turn this into a motor club, really?" Because I don't think there's much for the newer car scene in that. I think that's where sort of where the issues, not the issues, but sort of not. I don't really want to say neglect, but there's no sort of way of connecting the old motor clubs to the new scene, especially with the likes, like Rob is a great example. He loves his car, he loves going to events, he loves taking photos of them, but necessarily he doesn't like working on them. He doesn't very because he gets me to do it, but
Yeah.
there's no draw, and I think that's where something needs to happen, and hopefully the Motorsport UK could sort of draw the younger crowd across, because everybody says on social media that motorsport is a dying breed, and especially in the UK, because it's, as you've already said, it's very expensive, and hopefully we're sort of living proof that you don't have to spend every sort of penny that you have got to do it and to do these amazing events. But yeah, Rob, start a motor club, and I want to drive some of our events. But yeah,
I think it's, I see from Middlesex that, there is a desire from them to have a younger generation of people join their club, and I think there is a feeling across the board at the moment, whether it's Motorsport UK, us, motor clubs all around, that something needs to be done and needs to happen for for it all to carry on going forward. I mean, obviously from my dad sort of thing, you hear of Clubman Motorsport. You used to just put a couple of belts in it and a cage, and sort of that was almost it, really.
Yeah.
But with the evolution of the safety of everything, it's replace. I said to one of my friends, "I'm gonna, I think it's either my seats or my belts are out of date at the end of the year." He went, "What do you mean they're out of date?" Like it just was such an alien concept to him. I said, "Well, I've got a date on them down there." I said, "Once I get to 1st of January 2022, I said, I need new ones. I can't compete with them." And he went, "Oh, I'll buy them off you then. I'll have them for my car on the road." He's going to go and put them in a road car and have them and use them. Like, he sees nothing wrong with them. But for competition purposes, it's another expense that I'll have to deal with next year, sort of thing. But it is across the board at the moment with I don't think anybody quite knows how to approach the whole situation with it at the moment. There's a lot of good ideas, there's a lot of bad ideas, and it's, I think with possibly one wrong move, it could just all fall in on itself at the minute. I think that's sort of where it is.
Yeah, and from I want to try and include Rob on this because I know he hasn't spoken for, because yeah, he's not the most sort of knowledgeable about this, but from an outside point of view, because we can spout ideas off all day, but truly from an outsider's point of view, what would you say would get you into a sort of a motor club, because, or a traditional motor club, because whether that has to change or they have to do something else, whether that's a night of showing up to your car and like having that sort of C&M sort of concept, or do you just go to a car park?
I think the big difference between a traditional motor club and the stuff that you see today, so with the club that I'm doing, is how they go about getting new members. And the best way to do that in modern day is with social media. There aren't, to my knowledge, many motor clubs in the traditional sense that run big social media campaigns, either in the form of Instagram or Facebook, to get people excited about it. We live in a very, very hype-based world these days where you've got to really make something of an idea to get people interested, to get them to want to do it. I think if you go back 30 years, getting into motorsport was a heck of a lot easier. Health and safety being one thing, but generally just the cost of running cars is more now than it ever used to be. Normal cars or motor racing cars. I think because there's just a lot more effort involved in the form of having to get all your different licenses, knowing how everything works, what you need in your car to make sure that it passes certain tests and regulations to be able to compete. Because there's so many hurdles to get over these days compared to 30 years ago. I think a lot of people just see the amount of effort that would need to go in and research to do it, that they just sort of get overwhelmed with it and get put off. It's a lot easier these days to do something as a car person, to do something like me and go and buy a more expensive car on finance and just turn up to car shows and show off your car. It's a lot easier to do that these days than it is to go and compete in motorsport, no matter how much you might want to do it. Because if, as you say, it's a very sort of secret handshake world. If you don't know someone, it's a lot harder to get in. So it's just at a point now, I think, with any form of motorsport, where unless you know someone or you were brought up with it, i.e. your parents did it or your uncle did it and you went down with him at the weekend, it's near nigh impossible these days to get in on that kind of action.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with you, because I found that myself, even though I was from a motorsport background, when I was trying to get into it, even though like my father had done it previously, it was 30 years out of date, or his experience. So I had to virtually research it myself, and it ended up being talking to people, putting myself out there realistically, putting posts on social media, literally phoning random people up and asking, how do I do? What do I need to buy? Like, and some of my great friends now are some people that I'm either accidentally message on Facebook or phone them up because they sent me their number on social media, which is a weird concept, really, if you put it in that way, because obviously there's a lot of wonderful people on the internet. But I feel the motorsport, even as a young person, you're sort of not tabooed, but you're seen as a yobbo, especially, oh, you shouldn't be in the scene because you drive a 2015 John Cooper Works Mini. But I don't know personally what has to change to get people in it, because to me, I wanted to get in it, so that was the own drive. It wasn't the hype. And I think it's definitely down to Motorsport UK to try and do that. But I think necessarily it needs to have the other things to sort of come up with it as well. Like you said, Rob, like you need the campaigns and stuff like that.
I think the other thing as well is that children, you get different generations that are defined by certain periods. When you look at car history, someone like Colin McRae inspired so many people in the sort of late 90s, early 2000s, that he inspired a generation then that wanted to do rallying. If you look at the equivalent kind of your sort of rallying isn't as big as it used to be, particularly on TV. It isn't televised as much as anymore. You can go on Sky and you can find it, but it's effort to find it. It's not as widely available. Same for Formula One. That's Sky. So unless you go looking for it, you're not going to find it. So there aren't as many kids on a Sunday morning or Sunday afternoon sat in front of the TV watching these legends tear these cars around and getting them inspired. Instead, they're sitting there watching YouTube, watching rich kids in nice cars and thinking, I want to do that. So aspirations have changed because the content that the modern generation is seeing is a lot different to what it used to be. Whereas before, motorsport was the thing that got kids excited about cars. Now it's just having enough money in the bank to go and buy the latest and greatest new supercar.
Yeah, I mean, I always say that the sort of lack of terrestrial TV coverage of motorsport in general is, you know, a big adverse effect. I mean, when I was growing up, the Formula One was still on BBC. The rallying was also, especially Network Q or the RAC or whatever variant it was at the time. It was live stages on the TV on a Saturday afternoon, like, and sat there watching it. Like now, unless you're subscribing to, is it WRC? I've got a subscription procedure.
Mm-hmm.
Sky have now got the Formula One. I mean, they're two of the biggest motorsport championships in the world, and either way, you've got to pay an extra TV subscription to watch them. Like, it's detrimental to its own, its own success, really.
Yeah, definitely. And I think I think it's I'll put the name of the channel. I'm not too sure about it, but I know it's an orange flag. But they do a really good job of documented big rallies. Unfortunately, they're not at the clubman level. Sorry, what was that?
Is it special stage?
Yes, yes, special stage on. They're really good. Very good presenters and stuff like that, and that's what I watch to get my sort of rally fix. But you don't really get like to see the likes of Colin McRae rag it round a sort of a Welsh lane in his WRC Fiesta or Focus or what have you anymore, and there isn't that hype around it. There used to be. I don't know where it's gone. I don't know what happened. I understand that obviously social media took over and what have you, but I am probably one of the last generation who remember, probably myself and Rob, sort of remember the legends of like the likes of Richard Burns and Colin McRae, just to name. Well, you've got Carlos Saints and stuff like that. You've got the greats there, but
that was the other thing. I mean, with the championship at that time, like you say, McRae, Sainz, Didier Auriol, Tommy Mäkinen, like you can list off number of world champions that were all competing, and then you had the Escort, the Lancer, the Impreza, the Corolla, like, and any driver or any car on their day could win an event, and that was, some of the appeal to it as well. And we sort of went through the Sebastian Loeb era of Citroen winning and Loeb winning, and it sort of happened. It happens with Formula One as well. When I've got a bit like it with Formula One at the moment. Although Lewis is a champion and a worthy driver, and I've sort of got very little criticism of his driving abilities. It sort of knocks the excitement out of it a little bit because the repetitiveness of Mercedes and Hamilton, Schumacher and Ferrari was another one, Loeb, and it just knocks the excitement out of it. And I think after the spell of that with the Citroen and Loeb, it took me a little while to get back into sort of watching the highlights of the World Rallying, and it's only sort of been in recent years that I've sort of got back into it. But them 90s, I think there's a video somebody's put together on YouTube, and they compare the 90s WRC with the Group B years, and say if anybody wants an argument about what era of rallying was the best, these are the two that go head to head. And I sat there watching it, and I thought, you know what, he's got a really good point. Like, I love the Group Bs, like they're awesome machines sort of thing, and daredevil drivers at the time, like you didn't know whether you were going to make the end of the stage or what in them, like. But the excitement involved with the era of rallying I grew up with, like, yeah, there's comparables, and I don't know whether it's a changing rules doesn't always work. They do it with the Formula One time and time again, and it don't always make it any more exciting. But you just have to get lucky, I think, sometimes, with just having enough people involved, willing to, spend their motorsport budget as a manufacturer on just that, and have several doing it with top drivers, and you create an excitement and a buzz about the sport. And characters sticking up like McRae at the time, all 4 or 5 of them drivers had a different character, and when they get competitive, they're going against each other, and that was that, right?
Yeah, and I definitely think this is I think it's a contention within social media and also motorsport alone. People become robots, and you can't really be yourself, really, because you've obviously got a sort of a persona to uphold, and that's a sort of not a good boy, but sort of a good person persona, because you can't rant and rave, you can't swear, you can't go wrong. Where these guys who we hold as greats through the steering wheel, or they're the scuffle in the paddock, or they were effing and blinding, and they're allowed to, not they were allowed to, but it was sort of, that was the ethos of the sport. It's hot and heavy, and it's in your face. And now it's a bit too corporate. It's a bit, oh yes sir, no sir, 3 bags full sir.
They're all
No.
well managed from a young age, aren't they? That's the thing now. That from a very young age, the entry level of these world level drivers now is incredibly young, and they're manipulated and molded to become this person, before they even hit the world stage, aren't they?
Yeah.
Whereas, sort of 20, 30 years ago, they were, late 20s, early 30s before they got to that level. And, 9 times out of 10, they'd laid it all on the line to get there, and didn't really worry, none of them were worried about who they were going to upset when they got there, sort of thing, right?
Because they were there for themselves. They weren't there for a team of people behind them, which
No.
I think that's very sort of applicable today to today's society. Everybody isn't just one person, if you make sense. It is sort of everybody, or not everybody, but if you go to a race, you've got 50 million followers to sort of uphold that sort of persona to, which it's good and bad, because you've got to, obviously, you are an influencer. So I know Rob hates that word, but but you've got to uphold that, and it's sort of false. It's a false narrative, I think. But yeah, social media is a brilliant thing, but it also can be crippling, and I think that's an area that motorsport hasn't really caught on to, and it's sort of just towed the line really with it. So, but
it's it gives, it's a lot of eyes, a lot of extra eyes on, possibly one person, when, I always say it's not, I've got my pages, and, Brett Murray Rally, and Instagram, Facebook, and on YouTube, and do this and do that. And, so I sit there and I think, well, it's Brett Murray Rally and it's me, but without, the co-driver, my service team, this person, that person, the sponsors I've got involved, this, that, and the other. I wouldn't be doing it. So it's, when I am sitting there some days and you think, oh, say thank you to these and these, and another day and you think, oh, I could just sit there and say I, me, myself, and you think, oh no, like it's there's more to it than that. Like it's, I think it's difficult with social media to try and get the right balance, because you're not just talking about, you say an influencer sort of thing. Not 9 times out of 10, they're one person that's telling you what they've eaten in the morning and what they're dressing it. Do you know what I mean? They're self-obsessed sort of thing, like, and the industry's not that way at all, really.
No. And just to touch on sort of the social media aspect, because I know that's sort of a collective sort of passion in air quotes, obviously for all of us, because I obviously run the Rally Race Guys YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, etc. You've got your Brett Murray sort of rallying YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram, and some other stuff. Rob has got his. It is quite challenging, and I think people don't understand when it comes to this sort of stuff to try and sort of keep content going, the lengths that people go to, especially with Rob. Like, Rob goes on car shoots for sort of his stuff. He goes to Cafe in a Machine. He goes and he does his thing. Me, I'm personally not that active. I just do stuff as I sort of do it. With yourself, from what I've seen, it's more when you do something that is notable, whether it's a new sponsor or something like that. Correct me if I'm wrong. Or a photo from an event or something, then you post it. But what do you guys think of sort of that aspect of, like, sort of management of it? Because I don't think that's sort of addressed in sort of today's society, is it?
I think if you're looking at it from a motorsport standpoint, especially if you're like a driver for a team or something like that, you've obviously got to toe the line between sort of saying, yes, this is me, I am the driver, but at the same time, it's not all me. There is a team behind that. But I think part of why motorsport has lost a bit of the, I guess, romance that it used to have. If you look at F1 today, it's very much it's a manufacturer's championship. It's more Mercedes versus Ferrari versus whoever else. Whereas if you go back and say, look at like the Niki Lauda, James Hunt rivalry back in the day, they were more like rock stars than drivers, and people were more interested in the personal rivalry and the people themselves more than back then. It was a lot more about the people driving the cars than who made the cars. Whereas now it's, as you say, it's very corporate, it's very management driven. Whilst it does take a good driver to get behind the wheel to win, at the same time, it's still very much it's company driven. So that sense of rivalry, people don't care about it as much because you can't get emotionally connected to a corporation. You can get emotionally connected to a driver who, like, say, James Hunt, who would go and get drunk and, be not antisocial, but be controversial. And you're never going to get a controversial driver these days because of the world of social media. You have to be spick and span all the time. And there are good things and bad things about that, obviously, but because people can't necessarily be themselves anymore, they lose that character, and people lose the association with the drivers because, as you say, they become robots. I think that's where a big problem lies, is that people can't identify with the people who are behind the wheel. The audience can't identify with the drivers, so they lose the interest.
Do you want to talk about your sponsors? Because I know you've had a couple more. You've had a couple more sponsors this year from last year. I don't know how you sort of go about getting sponsorship and sort of finding them, because I've had the sort of I've had the OP oils and stuff like that, which give you discount when you put your stickers on the cars. But you've got different ones. You've, from the looks of it, you've actually sort of gone out and spoken to some companies, and they potentially might have given you a discount or a code, or I don't know. Could you expand more on that?
I'm even last year, man. I'm just looking around on the internet, like you say, the OP oils is just a percentage discount. Demon Tweaks is a similar sort of thing, just on their sponsorship scheme. They actually do, if you do certain tags on Instagram and everything, you get entered into a draw for, they pull six winners, and you get £150 voucher if you're one of the 6. And we actually got that last year, so that's, you know, sort of pay for itself just in that, really, for what it's worth. I took on a friend of mine with 1981 events. Obviously with the pandemic, he's all DJ promoting, just anything to do with the entertainment business, like, is just a go-to and highly recommended person. And obviously it all stopped for him in the pandemic, so just out of a chance phone call one day, he said to him, do you want to get a sticker on the car, and it might just give you something to keep your social media going, because, like you say, just giving him something to post about, sort of thing, while we were doing it. And that's developed into, he's sort of my go-to person for sort of media outlets. He's got a couple of radio interviews on Three Counties Radio. There was another one, it's going to elude me now. But like I say, he's sort of finding me media outlets, and, you know, he's sort of providing a bit of worth back, you know, in what he can do as well. I've got Oh So Pretty, which was the wife's eyelash business, and as you can imagine, I've got to have a sticker on your car, and, you know, without the pair of us working, I wouldn't be able to afford it. So it's a sponsorship deal, if you ask me. Then who else did we manage to get on there? We've got new for this year. We've had Custom Concrete and Countrify Networks, which have actually come aboard, as, you know, they've actually financially got involved for this new season. And both, well, Countrify Networks was out of he posted on Facebook that he was looking to get involved with motorsport sponsorship, and, you know, it just developed from there. Just obviously explains, and he's local business to me as well, so it just sort of works out quite nicely for the pair of us. But that was just a chance comment on Facebook saying they were looking to do it, and, you know, you just sort of got to jump at the opportunity. And, you know, that's what a lot of all of it's about, is just opportunities, right place, right time with all of it. And Custom Concrete, they're another local company to us, and I think I emailed them just to see whether they were interested in getting involved in anything like that. And he phoned me up, and I think he was more interested about trying to just have his name in the Luton Knees, and, you know, that was it. So we've sort of gone aboard, and hopefully I can do a little bit more for him than just a mention in the paper and get the name about. I mean, that's, you know, what I say to all of these people you get involved with. It's, you know, I like to think I can provide them with a value. You know, I'm not turning up at these people's businesses and saying, you know, give me X amount of pounds, I just want to go and be silly and spend all your money and not my own. Like, that's, you know, that's not the concept. There's, you know, a multi-million-pound business in motorsport, advertising, sponsorship. It's, you know, throughout, you know, whether it's Formula One or whether it's what we do, there's a value to everybody's, you know, to everybody's car and everybody's championship. It just depends on, you know, where these companies pin your value, sort of thing. And, you know, what you can provide for them.
Definitely, yeah. And even in your second season, to get a paid sort of, or two at least paid sponsors, that is sort of massive, really, especially with I wouldn't say the largest social media following, but sort of I think that would it definitely helps. But also your results as well. They show that you even though it's your first season and also pandemic as well, you were still doing well. So you can only go strength to strength. And evidently they believe in you. So which is great. So and to be fair, that's how we met as because we actually met on a Facebook group with sort of a sponsorship sort of a community, wasn't it? So oh, I forgot the name of the group now.
The Racing Mentor one, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
So
See, I've found that, you know, I've got the book, and you know, found them, you know, the podcasts I listen to sort of when I get the chance, you know, and I think, you know, I think it depends how far you want to get involved is the other, you know, the flip side of things. Sometimes you know, I did start reading it and listening to it, and it was like it's almost becoming like a full-time job, and like trying to lean towards going professional, and it's like I'm not quite ever looking at that sort of level of involvement, but just what you know, what the philosophies behind what she's saying, and you know, the advice she's giving you is helpful, and you know, it's what sort of got me looking down the sponsorship route, and you know, it's obviously come off for me, sort of thing. So you know, there is a lot to be said for you know, the group and what they do, sort of thing, right?
yeah, and I actually I've met Jess, I think on 2 occasions. She's very very nice. I really like sort of her concept and stuff. I found her initially on social media, I believe, and then saw her at the NEC and I think another event. But I've actually had a 15-minute phone call with her, and this sort of was sort of out of that phone call. Sort of looking towards the podcast was sort of it was off that sort of group. You could potentially get a phone call with Jess mid-pandemic to try and sort of have a look, because she was also, that's what her major business thing is, sort of motorsport as well. So her sort of business outlet sort of got cut short that year. So she was trying to help the community out that she'd already built. And this is one of those sort of initiatives that she did, and a 15-minute phone call managed to get us two together and Rob on a Zoom call on a Thursday night, and talk about the world of motorsport. So just from a book
Yeah.
and a community, it can lead anywhere. So and that's just the power of the power of social media, and that's all the good side of it, but you also have the bad. So but yeah, I think that's us now. It's quite late, and I know Rob needs to get to sleep. But yeah,
Yep.
but yeah, thank you, Brett, for coming on and spending the time. I know it was a little bit later than probably advertised, but yeah, thank you for coming on and sort of showing your knowledge or sharing your knowledge and sort of your opinions, because that's what we're all about. Thank you, Rob, again. I know it was a little bit different from what our usual content is, but we're going to try and mix it up over the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, for sure.
Brett's sort of social media outlets will be in the description if you want to go and check them out. And do you want to say anything finally, Brett and Rob?
Thanks for having us on, and hopefully, Rob, you'll be motorsport bound next time, and you'll have a bit more to say.
Yeah, know a little bit more about the world. Yeah, but thank you for sort of giving us a little insight into how it all works, and sort of, you know, the sort of looking at it from an angle of someone who's gone into it with not a lot of money, because I think well, it's not a misconception, but I think the thing that puts a lot of people off motorsport is the idea that you're going to have to spend, you know, 5 figures plus, you know, just to get your foot in the door. And that's not necessarily the case. Either you know the right people, or as you say, you start from the bottom as a marshal and just sort of make your own luck in a way.
You know, there are people out there. I mean, I'd say I'll do it on a budget. Like I say, with some expenses I've gone a little bit further than I'd like over the last sort of 12 months, but it is possible on a budget. Like it really is. And as long as if you go out there with a concept of I'm out here and I'm doing it and I'm enjoying it, like, don't worry what anybody else is doing, you'll be fine.
Yeah,
definitely. Yeah, and thank you for watching. If you got any comments or anything like that, pop them in the comment section. If you want to DM us any of us, or Rob's just pointing to his dick.
No, I was like, comments down below. That's what I'm doing.
Okay.
But okay.
Yeah. So yeah. Like and subscribe as usual, and we if you got any questions about anything, obviously DM Brett if you want to know anything about him or any of his sponsors. We'll pop them in the description, and we'll be here in 2 weeks' time with another guest. So we'll see you next time, and bye.
Bye.